You have found yourself on another edition of Locked On Bulls. On today's episode, we got to talk about Modest. Is he ready to take the leap? He's shown some really good things in Summer League, and it seems like Modest Buzelis may be looking to have a big season here. Bulls signing Mac McClung. Is there a hidden reason behind that, and what could that be? Is it just you needed another body? And we got to talk about our reaction to what we saw from the Chicago Bulls in preseason. All that and more on today's episode of Locked On Bulls. Let's go.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily Chicago Bulls podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for tuning in to another edition of Locked On Bulls, member of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your first bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. See, Red Nation, what is going on? Listen, I got to talk about this Modest Buzelis leap that I feel is coming. I've been talking about this for a while now. And listen, I get it, right, Pat? Looking to go out on a limb. Is this a hot take topic? Is it? No, like I really have thought this for a while, that Modest Buzelis, when you look at what he was able to do last year, when you look at every time they gave him a little bit more to work with, you saw a young man who was going out there and who was continuing to make plays and continuing to elevate his game. And it feels like we've seen some of that here this season throughout the NBA preseason. Modest Buzelis through NBA preseason has been a force pretty consistently, and he's doing it on not a ton of shots, 11 shots per game. Yes, he is playing in the fourth quarter of some of these games, but really not being the focal point of the offense at this point. And it truly feels like he's somebody who could take on that role for the Chicago Bulls of, hey, we need somebody to go out there and get a bucket. Who's that going to be? Listen, I know Kobe White hasn't been out there. I would assume he didn't play yesterday either in the Bulls win over the Minnesota Timberwolves. And by the time you got to the fourth quarter, I think that you really had to look at this Bulls team as a whole and say, they're still competing. They're still going out there and fighting, but you don't have the best talent on the floor versus that Minnesota has out there. You can kind of tell that they have taken their foot off of the gas here a little bit. But I thought what you saw out of Modest Buzelis was very, very encouraging this preseason. It feels like he's a player who, one, could be in a conversation for a most improved type of player this year. I think as he's heading into the season, coming out with 17.6 points per game, he had a true shooting percentage of 71% in the preseason. He averaged 1.8 blocks per game. I thought his chase down game has improved dramatically, and it just truly feels like he's a player that is poised to take that leap. Now, is that leap going to be superstar? Is that leap going to be star? We'll see. That depends on how much of an opportunity he gets. But with what he's being given right now, again, I don't think Modest Buzelis at any point in the preseason took more than 15 shots. I got to go back and look through his numbers there, but I don't believe this is not Modest Buzelis, putting up 19 on 18 shots. This is not Modest Buzelis putting up, good scoring performances, but the efficiency is not there. Yesterday, Modest took 13 shots. He shot 61% from the field, shot 40% from the three-point line on 5 shots per game. And the big thing that I've continued to say is, listen, in that fourth quarter, he played 24 minutes yesterday. If you get him on a 32 to 35 minute rotation in there, right? And you start to see him playing a little bit more. Does he find that extra 4 to 5 shots per game where it's just cutting to the basket and Josh Giddey's finding him, cutting to the hole, finishing around the rim, put back dunks, tip ins? You know what I think? Like, those are the things for me that when I look at the Chicago Bulls team, I see a young man that has the opportunity. And you saw a very balanced finish to preseason. 10 shots for Giddey, 10 shots for Herter, 9 shots for Dalen Terry. It's very spread across, right? But when you get in the crunch time, when you get into those big moments, when you get into those, okay, we need somebody who's going to put us over the top, you usually end up going to one guy who has it going. And it seems like that's been Modest Buzelis pretty consistently here. I think when you talk about this young man, when you talk about the kind of leap that the hope is that he's going to be able to make, when you talk about the kind of consistency that he's shown throughout preseason, and I get it, it's preseason, it is not the regular season. You do have to take that into account. You can't just sit there and say, oh my God, everything that he did in preseason, he's going to take into the regular season. I don't think that's going to be a thing. Um, but right now, I think you have to look at Modest as somebody who is dangerous. I think you have to look at Modest as somebody who has the right mindset. I think you also have to look at him as somebody who's willing to put into work to try to get to that next level. Again, we'll see what ends up happening here. I'm incredibly excited about what this young man could bring to the table. But the biggest thing that I think you have to talk about, for being a leap here with Modest Buzelis is an improvement in his mindset defensively. I think that's going to be something massive for this team as things continue to move forward here. How we saw Modest finding those chase down blocks. Do I think that Modest is going to be somebody who you can lock up defensively, right? One-on-one, mano-a-mano. He's going to go out there, and no matter what, he's going to win his matchup. I don't know if he's there yet. I think there's time for that. I think that there's, a conversation to be had on, that level of his game continuing to have to grow here as we move forward. But can I say that Modest is going to work at it? Can I say that Modest is going to be somebody who, when you look at, what he wants to bring to the game, what he wants to bring to this Bulls team, he's going to give that extra effort to improve upon that 110%. And on top of that, you've already got a guy who has proven to be dangerous in the chase down game. And that changes your mind completely if you're trying to drive to the bucket. How many players have we seen that, right? I'm not going to sit here and say that Rudy Gobert one-on-one is a game changer, but you don't just have your point guard drive straight into the hole to try and get a layup over Rudy Gobert. That's not the kind of game plan that's going to work for you. You try to get a ton of motion in there. You try to get a ton of guys moving around, and then you hopefully get Rudy Gobert out of position, and then you attack the paint. Modest has to factor in to teams' defensive game plans if he's able to block shots at the clip that we saw him blocking it, almost 2 blocks a game in the preseason. And I thought some of, the one game he's got 5 blocks. I think that, last night you saw him getting involved in the block shot game yet again. How many did he finish with last night? He was Modest ended up with 2 block shots last night. Like, those are the things to me that are going to be massive for this Bulls team to have that defensive presence down low, because Vooch isn't a defensive presence down low, right? Jalen Smith isn't a defensive presence down low. Zach Collins gives you a little bit more, but I just think that right now where this Bulls team is at, you have to do a little bit more. You have to have that threat of a guy down there. And so hopefully this is something that the Bulls are able to take advantage of and are able to move forward with here. Let's hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. This news did just break probably about 15 minutes ago, so I want to get into this as well. As Yuki Kawamura, who was signed to a 2-way deal, which Bulls PR confirmed due to a medical condition, has been waived, and the Bulls have gone on and signed Mac McClung. We're going to do an ad read here real quick. And then we want to get into that conversation as well. But first, let's listen into a word from our sponsors over at FanDuel. Appreciate FanDuel as always, because the NFL season is here and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Listen, if you're in on FanDuel, it makes watching football so much more exciting when you've got a little bit of something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today to get started. More Locked On Bulls coming up next. We welcome you back in here to Locked On Bulls. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. So I'm sitting here looking over this information right now as it's happening. The Mac McClung signing was what we were going to come in here and talk about. But this is something that it takes a little bit more precedence here, as the Bulls have released Yuki Kawamura, which I would assume is the reason for the Bulls going out there and signing Mac McClung, which Bulls PR is confirming is due to a medical condition. Kawamura has been sidelined with right lower leg pain. Coach Billy Donovan will talk to the media following tomorrow's practice. Bulls are off on Friday. Also from KC said the Bulls signed Kawamura to a 2-way deal after a strong performance in Summer League, replacing Jameer Young whom the organization also liked. Bulls have a two-way vacancy. It isn't expected to be filled by Mac McClung, who Mike Escato reported had signed. McClung has a previous Windy City Bulls stint. This is concerning, honestly, if we're being honest. Did Mac McClung just get waived? Trey Flowers, two-way deal. Oh, well, you got to keep up with the information here. Sham Sharania, the Chicago Bulls are signing forward Trenton Flowers to a two-way deal. Agents Mike Silverman and Troy Payne of Equity Sports tell ESPN Flowers played in 6 games for the Clippers last season as a rookie after averaging 20 points in the G League. I don't see anywhere where KC is reporting that McClung got waived. But listen, I'll say this about the whole situation. Hopefully Yuki is okay. I don't know what the injury is, but if the injury is serious enough that Chicago Bulls were willing to waive him and go out and try to find other pieces to add to this team, I think that says a ton about the type of injury that Yuki is dealing with. I would assume that means you're probably talking about him being out for the year at a certain point. Like you don't waive a guy like Yuki Kawamura, especially with the team that you have and what you're trying to build. And what I mean by that is Yuki's perfect for a G League team. Yuki is somebody who can come in and can facilitate the basketball in a great way. He's somebody who offensively can get everybody else involved. And he's someone who focuses on the pass. And me and Hayes talked about this ad nauseum, right? That's exactly what you want from a point guard on the Windy City Bulls. You bring back a guy like Trenton Flowers, who on a two-way deal is a small forward, right? Now you wonder what your point guard situation is going to be with the Windy City Bulls. But when you're trying to develop guys, you've got Lachlan Albrick, who's probably going to spend some time down there. You've got Noah Essengay, who's probably going to spend some time down there, right? Like, those are the guys that you thought were going to be able to be really well developed by having a guy like Yuki Kawamura on the team with you. It's something that you hate to see from the injury side of things, but unfortunately that's how the NBA goes. I don't think that Yuki ever really had a chance at being a factor on an NBA roster. I think the size was always going to be too much before future development. I thought he was a great point guard for the Bulls to have at the Windy City level. The reason being, right, like, how are you going to simulate at a lower level, right? A guy like Josh Giddey, who is going to be able to find you in some great positions. And as you're running the floor, if you're Noah Essengay or you're Lachlan Albrick, as you're moving through, coming off of screens and different things like that, you have to always be ready for the pass. What better way to do that than with a pass first style point guard? It's going to be interesting to see, kind of how the Bulls pivot and try and recreate that. Bringing in Trenton Flowers doesn't really do that for the team. Trenton Flowers in the G League last season, I'm trying to pull up his G League stats here now. In the G League last year, I mean, he was solid, right? He was somebody who was a scorer, 20 points per game on 47% shooting. The three ball was there. He shot 37% from the field. And I think rebounding the basketball at a 5.1 rebounds per game, so about 5 rebounds a game, and shot it pretty well from the free throw line. Like, this is somebody who, when you look at the advanced splits, good offensive rating, solid defensive rating as well. Like, somebody that you can look at and say, hey, this young man has some upside that we can add to the team. Now, where's he going to play on the team? It does feel like, hey, let's see if we can find a body that can fit in here and make something work for you. I'm not sitting here telling you that he's going to be this big mainstay name that's going to be on the Windy City Bulls for the next few years, but an opportunity to go out there and try and find another forward. And clearly, you can see that the Bulls have their type yet again. Trenton Flowers, long wingspan, 6'9" forward, solid rebounder, solid scorer. Like, this is the Patrick Williams build. This is the Julian Phillips build, who I thought Julian Phillips actually played pretty well. We got to get into some preseason reaction on that as well. And then you had a guy like Mac McClung, who is the high flyer, who can be a scorer at that level as well. Of course, he's going to be in the dunk contest. We know this is a ticket sales move as well. If you ever see Mac McClung at the NBA level, something's gone wrong, though. You know what I mean? Like, he's not going to be a big part of this team. But it does suck from the Windy City level that you're going to end up losing Yuki Kawamura. Again, I don't know what the situations are with the injury, as far as we know, and as far as Casey Johnson has reported to this point. This is just a leg pain. But hopefully this is not, something that impacts Yuki long term throughout his career. I think he would be somebody that the Bulls would love to get back into their system, and hopefully, he's somebody that can get himself back healthy, and the Bulls can be able to get back onto the court at some point this season or even next season. Again, I don't know if this is season ending. I would assume if they're waiving him, it is going to be season ending, but hopefully there's a lot of excitement, or hopefully, you get him back, because there's a lot of excitement that comes with having Yuki Kawamura on your team, just from a Windy City Bulls standpoint. Let me know how you guys are feeling in the comments below as well. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave the 5-star review. Y'all know what to do with these signings on the books. Are any of these needle movers for you? To me, I think your rotation is pretty much set. I think your team is pretty much set. And I think that, Yuki was fun, but there wasn't a real situation that he was going to make the main roster. There wasn't a real situation that he was going to be a part of your main roster. You know what I mean? He was the Antonio Blakeney of this team, who did end up being a part of your main roster, but a much worse roster back then. But there's certain players that just bring excitement, that bring a fire to the fan base. And I thought Yuki was that. He just found his opportunities. He took his opportunities, and he always made the most of them. So wish nothing but the best for Yuki Kawamura here moving forward. And hopefully this Bulls team is able to figure some things out, because you're going to need that Windy City Bulls team to be good. You're going to need development from that Windy City Bulls team. Like, I know it's the Windy City Bulls, so we don't think about it, right? But listen, what you saw out of Adama Sanogo down there, and I know he dealt with some injury after that, but the consistency that he showed when he actually got NBA time, he was ready to go. Modest spent a little bit of time down there. When Modest came up from the G League, he was ready to go. You know what I mean? You're going to have that with guys like Lachlan Albrecht. You're going to have that with guys like, even if you bring back a guy like Jameer Young. Remember, Jameer Young gave us minutes at times, and he came on the floor NBA ready. Was he great? No, I'm not going to say that, but the G League is truly an important part of finding a way to develop some of these young pieces, especially when you go the route that AK is gone. AK seems like he's gone this route of, we're going to bring these guys in that are incredibly young. We're going to find the raw talent. We're going to develop that talent, and we're going to try to put the most on the floor. You haven't been able to do that a ton, right? Modest is kind of the first ilk of that you talk about is, hey, this is a guy that AK has drafted who has been able to go out there and get the most out of the development from one season to the next. His time in the G League, right, impacted and helped him be NBA ready. He also spent some time with G League Ignite. I think when you look at, a guy like Noah Essengate, you have to pretty much say the same thing. You have to pretty much talk about the same thing. You know what I mean? Where you're in this, you got this young piece that looks like he has all the talent in the world. Now you got to build confidence in this young man that he's going to be prepared to go out there on an NBA floor and do it. And we didn't see a ton of that from Noah in the preseason. I didn't see a guy who looked like he was ready to rip the heads off of the guys that are standing across from him. You know what I mean? And that's important in the NBA. I didn't see a guy who looked like he was confident in his skill set being better than the guys that he was playing against. So now as you send him down to the Windy City Bulls, that's going to be huge for you to say, hey, kid, this is what you were able to do over in France. These were the things you were comfortable with. Let's work on those. Let's build on those. And let's get you confident in those at the NBA level. So hopefully we continue to see that development out of Noah Essengate down at that Windy City Bulls level. And we see a team that continues to be confident. All right, as we keep this thing moving along here, man, we're going to finish out the show talking about preseason reaction and looking at some of the guys that did shine and maybe showed a little something for that 10th spot that me and Hayes have been talking about in the preseason. But first, we got to tell you guys all about WayFair. The holidays are going to be here before you know it, which is exciting, but getting your home ready for guests and celebration can feel like a lot. Maybe your serveware needs a refresh, or the guest room could use some new bedding. Well, WayFair has everything you need to get your home holiday ready, from Christmas trees and wreaths to bedding, cookware, and outdoor inflatables. It's your one-stop shop for every room in the house. WayFair makes it so easy to personalize your home for the holidays with a huge selection and for every style and budget. And with free and easy delivery, even on the big stuff, you can get everything you need without the hassle of huge delivery fees. So get organized, get refreshed, and get ready for the holidays for way less. Head to wayfair.com right now to shop all things home. That's WAYFAR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. More Locked On Bulls coming up next. All right, as we finish out today's episode, man, appreciate you guys for tuning in and showing love. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Let's finish it out with this. My reaction to the preseason overall. When you look at, the Bulls played in 5 preseason games, twice versus Cleveland. They won both of those, lost to Milwaukee, got destroyed in Denver, and then found a way to finish out the preseason with a win, finishing out this preseason 3-2 over the Minnesota Timberwolves. Here are my takeaways from what we saw from this team as a whole. When I look at guys that I can have confidence in off of the bench, Ayo Dosunmu feels like a guy, as much as we're talking about what Modest can do and the leap that he can take, the consistency that you saw at Ayo, the ability to get to the rim on a pretty impressive, impactful basis. I think you can't undersell the efficiency that Ayo Dosunmu had getting to the bucket. I loved it. And I thought, that's something that coming off the bench, if you have that to rely on with Trey Jones, who also showed you some really good games and an ability to knock down, not only just, knock down the 3 ball, but also an ability to be able to get into the trenches and be able to play well there as well. Defensively, I thought as a point of attack defender, you still saw some of those good things from Trey Jones. It feels like you have a really good rotation there. Nikola Vucevic didn't really give you the preseason that you were hoping for or excited for. And I think that what you saw to Josh Giddey was a guy that was going through the motions. I kind of feel the same way about Vooch. But you don't know what it's going to be to start the season. Here's my thing. The biggest problem that the Bulls are going to have, and I think Slayer just said this, you gotta fix slow starts and sloppy turnovers. Every game that the Bulls were in, at some point they were playing from behind. And this is something consistent that we saw from last season with the team. Every game that the Bulls were in, you kept feeling like, you got to stop turning the basketball over. It's going to put you in this disadvantageous situations. Last game, 15 turnovers. The only thing that made it better was that you got 20 turnovers out of the Minnesota Timberwolves, and you played some solid defense. But as far as how the team defense looked, when you're always on your back foot because you're turning the basketball over, your defense is going to take a hit. When you're always on your back foot because you're constantly trying to catch up to guys that are in fast break situations because you're turning the basketball over, you're going to take a hit. Those are things that I think the team truly has to improve at. And by the start of this season, you got to do it quickly. Otherwise, this first Detroit game here in Chicago could be a rout. You've got, a really, really good Detroit team coming in here that's trying to put a stamp on, hey, we're not just taking a step, we're taking a major playoff step here this season. And so they've got the youth, they've got the ability, they can go out there and do a lot of things. You got to be prepared for that. And if you're turning the basketball over to them a ton, that game will be over quickly. There's some team in preseason, you always have that opportunity to come back. And I'm not saying that the Bulls don't. I think in the second and third quarters of games, you really saw the Bulls, kind of put their foot on teams and be able to, stifle them defensively and fight their way back in the game. But you exert so much energy that way, you end up dead by the time the fourth quarter gets here. And yes, you do have a little bit of a deeper team that maybe you can get away with that a couple of times. But it's not a way for your identity to be. And that's what it feels like this Chicago Bulls team has been here throughout the preseason. Offensively, though, when this team gets hot, it gets hot. I mean, like this is, every single game. We saw a quarter where offensively it was, I guess outside of the Denver game, even in the Denver game a little bit though, you kind of saw a quarter, but you saw a quarter where, this team got hot offensively. The three ball was falling. You were able to attack the paint at will, and defensively you were locked in. Unfortunately, it came after a team had already put it on you a little bit. You stop the slow starts, which have consistently been an issue with this Bulls team throughout Billy Donovan's tenure. You stop the having to fight for these tough comebacks, and dare I say, you could be a team that's able to go out there and get some things done. And how does that happen? I think you have to have that guy that that you can go to. And I don't know if at the beginning of the season, Billy Donovan's going to put that pressure on Modest Buzelis. I don't know if at the beginning of the season, Billy Donovan's going to put that pressure on Kobe White or on, Ayo Dosunmu to be that focal point. But when you get in those tough shooting stretches, sometimes it is get out of the way, give the ball to your best scorer, and go in there and put a bucket up. Sometimes that's all it's got to be. And hopefully this Bulls team is able to do that more times than not when we get to the real season and the ball really tips up in the air. First game of the season is going to be on the 22nd. I will be live if you are a member on the Windy City Breeze or a member of the Breeze's Patreon. I will be doing the old school live calls like I used to do back in the day, where, I literally do the play-by-play and all that stuff. We've been having a great time doing that in the preseason, so tap in with us. Of course, Hayes is doing some similar things over on Chicago Bulls Central, so you can tap in with him as well. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. I can't wait for the season to start. Hopefully we start this thing off with a win. As always, man, it's your boy Pat the Designer. Back at it again. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. See Red Nation. Stand up. Appreciate y'all for tuning in and showing love. Peace.